Okay, hello and welcome to another edition of our weekly handicapping podcast that we are going to be doing throughout the next couple of months here and hopefully into the year, even though we might get a little busy with the sales and some big race weekends, as we get towards May and June. But enjoy doing these. Really excited about how the Pegasus one went. I think we gave out some pretty decent opinions. Zulu Alpha ended up winning the Pegasus Turf and put up a good number, and he was a horse we talked about. Our main pick in the Pegasus did not run well tax, but we did talk about Mucho Gusto as well. So hope people were able to handicap well and put together some good opinions. Not as big of a race, stakes card on Saturday across the country, but there is something that I noticed that I think I'm going to take a crack at, and something that I think a lot of handicappers, especially multi-race, wagerers, will enjoy, and that is the offering of this cross-country pick 5 on Saturday. 3 different tracks that all have stakes races on their cards, getting together and offering a pick 5, with a very low takeout and a 50-cent base wager. It's just a 15% takeout, which is really, anything, 15% or lower is advantageous for multi-race players. The other cool part about these, these multi-track pick 5s, if you will, and you've seen some of them have success, is that, you're kind of cramming a lot of action into a short period of time. We're going to have, race from Aqueduct, 3 races from Tampa, and a race from Oakland. This whole pick 5 sequence is going to take about an hour and 20 minutes or so. So it's going to be quick action. It's going to be exciting. It's all stakes races, which is always a little bit more fun to handicap, higher class races like this. So kudos to these 3 tracks getting together and offering this wager. This wager should be available on the vast majority of ADWs that you might use. And I think if anybody is out at either Aqueduct, Tampa, or Oakland, you should be able to play this bet on track as well. I'm not too sure if it'll be offered at tracks outside of those tracks, but I know the ADWs should have it covered. So we just put together a quick little ticket here, and we're excited to go through it. The first leg of this sequence is at Aqueduct, the one race at Aqueduct, and that will be the Jimmy Winkfield Stakes, which is for straight 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs. It's a listed stake for $100,000. And this is a nice little field, put together here with some, potentially promising 3-year-olds as we head into the spring months that are upcoming here. I honestly, struggled the most with this race, more than any other race in the sequence. And it's probably going to be a race that I end up spreading a little bit in. I just think a lot of these horses are still kind of unexposed, if you will. And some of them are coming out of maiden wins that it's a little bit hard to gauge how good the fields they beat were, given that a lot of those runners haven't come back and run yet. But like we always do, we start with the pace of a race. And another thing I kind of noticed here, even though it's a 7-furlong sprint, there's really not a lot of speed signed on in here. From the rail, you have a Newstone who is coming in from the Mid-Atlantic, trained by Mike Trombetta down at Fairhill. He has a little bit of speed, but not like true go to the lead speed. I think he's a little bit more of a stalker. Maybe the rail draw forces Manny Franco's hand a little bit. But I think the true speed of the race is directly to his outside in the number 2 Secret Rules, and a horse who's strung together 2 pretty nice back-to-back, wire-to-wire performances over this Aqueduct surface. He's in good form. He's probably got a little bit more seasoning than most. And if he's not going to catch too much pressure up front, he's one of the likely favorites and a very likely winner. He is one that I will absolutely be using in our pick 5 plays here. The 3 is Montauk Traffic. This is a horse that's a little bit hard to read. It completely blew the break in his first start, but Linda sent him down to Laurel, and he didn't take a ton of money either that day. He came back. He didn't get bet this day either. He was 6-1, and he ended up winning, but I have no idea the quality of field that he beat that day. Obviously was much better in his second start, but he's a bit of a wild card to me. He's one that I would probably have as a C potentially. I would probably also have Newstone as a B or a C. Old Chestnut is never run on the dirt. As you notice here, all his races have been on either turf or synthetic. That being said, he's boasting a couple nice workouts on the training track over at Belmont and really training well. And every now and then, Mark Cassie's kind of known to be able to pull off these surface switches. Not the best ROI with that angle there, but, he's one that's a little bit interesting. Probably a B or a C for me if he can take to the dirt. I can't really have Johnny Ritt because if you notice, really every time he ran into Newstone was better than him. If I'm going to take one of the Mid-Atlantic shippers, it's not going to be Johnny Ritt. He's going to be a toss. Quixotic is probably the other main, A in here for me. And highlight him. He's run very well in both of his starts, and they were both at Aqueduct. Jonathan Thomas having a very hot meet with a small string up here. By quality road. Looks like he might be able to stretch out even a little bit. And also, he's got a nice draw on the outside to kind of just stalk maybe right off of Secret Rules, who I expect to be in front. He's a major player. He's definitely an A. And then I think Polar Bear Pete on the outside is probably just a toss. So more than likely, if we talk about, the strategy of a pick five, and, there's two philosophies is that, both the first and the last leg are legs that you could, attempt to go skinny in or only use a couple of horses or maybe find a single or only go too deep. The theory being if you did that in the opening leg and you were eliminated, if you didn't get through the opening leg, at most tracks, you'll be able to come back and play the pick four and use some of the opinions and the handicapping work that you did, after you were eliminated, unfortunately, in the first leg, to just roll on into the pick four and play that sequence. Being a cross-country pick five, you can't really do that here. It's not like they're offering a cross-country pick four. So for me, I would, be leaning to spread a little bit more heavily in this race and use, a good amount of the runners that I listed. Obviously, my two X's will be the two horses that could blow me up, but you can't, I really don't like hitting the all button. I used to do it for a while, and the more you kind of look at it and analyze it, it's a losing play, and it's going to cost you money in the long run. But I like the ticket maker system that DRF has, where you can have your A's, your B's, and your C's, and you just punch them into ticket maker there on DRF, and they'll show you the play for you. But if you are going a little bit more of a caveman style, which is okay as well, I don't think it's you don't have to play the ticket maker style. I could end up using all five of these, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. If I wanted to go skinnier and a little bit more affordable ticket, maybe I just play the 2 and 6, and those are the two key horses in this race for me, and you just go from there. So a tricky start to the sequence in the Jimmy Winkfield. We'll move on to the next leg, which is the Tampa Bay 9th race, and that is the Suncoast Stakes. This is for 3-year-old fillies, 3 years old, and they're going to be going 2 turns, 1 mile and 40 yards on the dirt. Very interesting race because unlike the Jimmy Winkfield, you do have a good infusion of speed into this race. A filly like 260 is going to be one of the main speeds. It seems like she kind of only knows how to run one way. And last time in her winning effort, a great effort in the Gasparilla, she threw it down, 22, 44 and 4, 109. She really had to work to win that race. She's going to be a major part of the pace in here. You also have, on the rail, Arnaud Delacour's filly stretching out for the first time. We talked last time about looking at these Timeform US pace numbers. You got a 114 for Lucrezia on the rail, and you have a 117 for 260. You've also got a filly like Comical, who's kind of been known to put herself in the game. She's one that'll take money in here because she, did have a few nice performances out in California. We'll talk about her in a minute. Blame Debbie. She's probably going to be one more stalking the pace, but it'll be interesting to see between both Lucrezia and 260. Who knows? Maybe even We the Clouds with a little bit of stalking speed could be in there. All in all, I think you're going to have an honestly run race, and I do think it's going to set up for a fairly logical horse. So let's take a look, quickly throughout the field here. Lucrezia stretching out, with the speed signed on. I'm inclined to just, if she's going to have to prove it to me, she's going to have to beat me. I also wonder if her best race came on the turf. Her highest number came sprinting on the grass. Might be a sprinter, might be a turf horse. Not for me today. She will be an X. We the Clouds is an interesting filly. Constitution is just off to one of the hottest starts you've seen from a freshman stallion in some time, and you know, was impressive breaking her maiden at Keeneland, then had a little bit of a break and, you know, runs off the layoff in the Gasparilla Stakes, which was a big field and a tough field. And like I said, 260 really threw her down and everybody was chasing her throughout. She was getting to the winner late. She galloped out well. That was her first start off the bench in a while. She stretches out. You know, the pedigree suggests she should handle the stretch out. You know, she's one that I think you really have to use in here. She could improve loads off that start off the bench. And if she does, and if she handles the 2 turns, she could be very dangerous from a stalking position, sitting 3rd or 4th and ready to pounce as they turn for home. We the Clouds is a must use for me. 260. Look, it's a filly that I actually gave a slight look to in the Breeders' Cup, you know, back in November over here. You know, she pressed a pretty decent pace that day and just stopped, you know, pretty sharply. I think she's a nice filly. She's very talented. She's very fast. I just don't know about her going around 2 turns. She's going to have to beat me as well. Motu is probably the likely favorite in here, and one that I think warrants quite a bit of respect. She could very well trip out, you know, from a mid-pack position, and especially if it gets hot up front. Really just, you know, ready to you know, kind of make the winning move in the final few furlongs here. You know, you look at her goldenrod effort was very good, and it was behind a talented filly in Finite, who I believe is a Steve Asmussen filly that's already gone to Fairgrounds and won a stake down there and is very much on the Oaks Trail. Motu beginning her campaign here, a little freshening, you know, over the winter months. I don't know where this training center is. SUM. Never seen that before, but, you know, possibly somewhere that Ken McPeak is training his horses. Appears to be so, as his other filly in here also has been training there. But I have to think Motu could be the class of this field, could trip out. She's very dangerous as the favorite and a must-use in this field. Comical is one that's going to take money, and I think she's going to take money based on her name. And I really just, you know, she's just not for me, because you look at her first 2 starts, you know, we're very early in the year. She showed a lot of precocity, like most Into Mischiefs can, and was able to win a Schuylerville I thought was kind of weak. Went back to California and really got clobbered in both the Sorrento and the Del Mar Debutante. She ran well against Bast, excuse me, in the Chandelier. You know, but that was while setting a very relaxed, very slow pace that day, 24:49. Then she didn't run a step in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and then you see an ownership change here. This was not the same ownership group. I think she was offered in the Fasig-Tipton November sale. She RNA'd, but I'm sure a deal was made afterwards, because this is not the same group of owners that owned her before. She does switch to Steve Asmussen barn, which is always dangerous. She's going to be a short price. She's the type of horse I like to play against. You know, I really don't even know if she wants the farther distance, and she's not going to exactly get a light pace up front with, you know, dealing with Lucrezia and 260. She's an X for me. I'm going to be tossing Comical. Miss Important, I don't think is good enough. Blame Debbie. You know, I kind of liked her in the Demoiselle, but, you know, she sat very close to a crawling pace and just did no running. You know, so I really can't have her in here otherwise. She's probably going to be a short price also, probably in the 5-1 range, and, you know, you can have her. Turtle Tracks I tried to like, but at the end of the day, I think just Motu ran so much better in that Goldenrod Stakes. You know, she did have these 2 nice wins, but they were both sprinting. I'm not even really sure she wants the 2 turns. You know, she might be able to get it. You know, if you want to play a really, really big ticket, you know, maybe you use her as a C. For me, she's much more likely an X. And then the last filly that I'm actually going to end up using on the outside is Embossed. And this is a filly that's getting a big class test. You know, she's stepping up for Mike Stidham. Mike Stidham is based at Tampa and training his horses all down there. He's crushing it. He's winning at 30%. You know, I watched both these fillies last 2 races, one on the dirt, one on the turf. You know, she clearly just needed her first, because she is a completely different filly, and she is just powered away from these fields with ease. She's passed the eye test. Now she gets the class test. I don't want him. She's like 10-1 on the morning line, I think. I don't want Embossed to beat me and pay $14 and help juice up this pick 5. Embossed is an A. So at the end of the day, I think we're going to end up using primarily 2, 4, and 9 in here. If you want to get crazy and throw in somebody else, maybe throw in Turtle Tracks, the 8. And who knows, if you don't agree with me that this pace is really going to materialize, maybe you do need to give a little bit more credit to 260 or Lucrezia. But for me, you got to make stands. You got to cut off horses somewhere. I'm taking a stand against the speeds and a stand against Comical. 249 for me in the second leg, the Suncoast Stakes. The third leg is the Tampa Bay Stakes. This is a grade 3, going a mile and a 16th on the turf for older horses, 4-year-olds and up. And for me, this race, another one with a good amount of speed, should be an honestly run affair. But really, it just came down to, the more I handicapped it, that, class is going to shine through in this spot here. There's a difference when you really dissect the form of these older accomplished horses. A lot of them, 20 starts plus in their career. A lot of them from trainers that, very accomplished turf trainers as well. We'll go through and point out the speeds very quickly. You're going to get a lot of speed from Admiralty Pier. You are going to get a lot of speed from Renaissance Frolic, who is going first time for Safi Joseph, which that guy is tearing it up right now. It's a little bit scary on my end. A horse I might not use. Maybe you have to throw in as a C, just based entirely on how hot this trainer's going. Holiday has speed as well, and he is a 4-year-old now, running for the first time as a 4-year-old against older horses. You have to remember that that's still a step up. These are some salty older vets, 6, 7 years old, 5, 6, 7 years old. And, he was running against straight 3-year-olds, just a month ago. So you have to remember that with Holiday. Sometimes 3-year-olds going to 4 can take a big step forward. And I wouldn't be shocked if he does. But given he's going to have to contend with some other speeds in here and prove it against a higher class of horse, he's probably not for me. And then on the outside, you're also going to have speed from Real Story. So this could be very honestly run. This could even get a little bit hot. And for me, when you really look at the form, you take a horse like March to the Arch, and you look, and he's been running in races like the Shadwell Turf Mile, the Bernard Baruch, the 4-Star Dave, the Turf Classic. And although he's not winning these races, he's running close. His only real bad effort was probably the Bernard Baruch, and that was on soft ground that day. Beautiful weather in the forecast for Tampa. I checked before we started this. This is a very classy horse. He only got beat a couple lengths in the 4-Star Dave. He only got beat a length in the Shadwell Mile. Those are grade 1s. And then you look at, some other horses in here. A horse like Devamani, obviously, we're very familiar with, campaigned for us for quite a while. He's been running in 2 other than and 3 other than allowances his whole life. And although he gets a trainer change to Chad Brown here, he's never competed against this quality of horse. And there's a couple other horses that if you look at their form, they really stick out. And for me, that's Caribou Club. You look at some of the quality of the races he's been running in, and then also Hembry. Hembry's also kind of been running in some of the similar races to March to the Arch. So although the speed figures all look somewhat comparable, class is a major indicator here. And when you look at the running styles of all 3 of March to the Arch, is more of a mid-pack type. Caribou Club, maybe a stalking mid-pack type. And Hembry is more of a deep closer. They're all going to get some pace to run into. It's going to be a little bit of a rider's race. You got top-notch trainers in Cassie, Proctor, and Maker. There's some other horses maybe you want to consider. Maybe first time, Chad Brown for Devamani entertains you. For me, I just think he's an allowance horse. Safi Joseph first time. Look, that's a very scary angle these days, especially down in South Florida. Maybe you want to use a little bit of Renaissance Frolic. If, every now and then you get a little psychology moment between the riders that, there's 4 speeds in here, and the guys on the speeds come out a little bit more tentative than they should. So, maybe that's a horse you can, throw in as a C. Maybe Holiday, you think he's going to improve from, 3 to 4. Maybe he's a C. But for me, I'm going to say class prevails and class reigns in here. And I'm just going to go with the 4, main horses here. It's going to be, let me make this pen a little bit bigger. March to the Arch, Caribou Club, and Hembry. It might be a little chalky, but for me, that's the class of the field, and those are the ones that you really want in here. Moving on to the 4th leg of the sequence, and this is, nope, that's not the 4th leg. This is the 4th leg, and this will be a race that a lot of people are watching, a race with Derby points on the line. This is the Sam Davis, a grade 3, going a mile and a 16th on the dirt for straight 3-year-old colts. The purse is $250,000, and a really fun and interesting field lined up here. Obviously, there's been loads of attention heaped upon Independence Hall. you come to moments in these pick five sequences where you have, the big standout single. And I think a lot of people will probably play this race like Independence Hall is the standout sequel. And I think it's much, much more complicated than that. Yeah, I do think that there's we will look at the pace first, but I think that there's other options in here. And again, when you talk about strategy and philosophy of pick fives, to really get paid, to really light up the board with a over $1,000 payout or over a $5,000 payout, you have to beat a horse like Independence Hall. You're never going to cash a monster size ticket unless you get huge long shots in all four of the other legs by singling a horse like Independence Hall. So for me, just philosophically, not even so much a study of the horse or his opponents in here, I'm always more inclined to take a shot against a horse like this. And I will be taking a shot against him in the sequence here today. And I have a less likely single that I'll be talking about in the last leg. So you kind of have to swim upstream. You have to break away from the herd sometimes with your mentality in these things to really cash a nice ticket. So let's go through the Sam Davis. Of course, we start with the pace first. Ajaweed comes from off the pace. And you know what? Last time he was the only horse to do any running into a very slow pace in the Remsen. I know the winner Shotsky came back and ran poorly over the weekend in the Withers. That being said, Ajaweed was eye-catching to me in that spot. If he gets enough pace in here, he's one that I absolutely want to use. Sol Volante is a very interesting horse. He's a horse that had absolutely blew his competition out of the water in his two turf races, was extremely eye-catching. A horse that I actually liked in the Pulpit Stakes that day, and a horse that I expected, being by Caraconti out of King Mambo mare, bred by the Diarcos family, that, he's a turf horse. He's a horse going forward that I thought you'd see on the grass. Let me just clear this up a little bit here. Patrick Biancone decided to run him back in the Mucho Macho Man. There was a hot pace in there. He came from off that pace. He looked like he was getting to leaders, and just inside the eighth pole, he kind of began to spin his wheels a little bit, begin to struggle. To me, that's still indicative of a turf horse. Some very good turf horses are able to carry their talent, through the first 3/4 of a race on the dirt. It's those final grinding few furlongs of a dirt race, because really dirt races in the U.S. are wars of attrition. That a turf horse with that turn of foot and that brilliance, it really doesn't match up. So even though he ran well in there, and that race came back extremely fast, some interesting horses there in Chance It and As Seen on TV, I still feel like he's a turf horse. And look, he might win here. He's not impossible. But for me, I have to be a little bit against him. He is probably also going to be another one mid-pack. I wonder, too, if, Patrick Biancone's just really squeezing this horse a little bit too hard. He's kind of been after him for a while, and you see a bullet at 5 furlongs and 58, on the turf at Palmettos. But again, on the turf, interesting to be breezing on the turf and then running on the dirt. 58-1. Look, I know some people get enamored by time, and he's even been drilling them back here too. For me, he's a little bit lighter framed horse too, and it's how much can you squeeze the lemon before all the juice runs out? And for me, I have to be against Sol Volante here today. Albert Park is one for Stidham. Again, we've talked about Stidham on fire at Tampa. But I thought he had to run better in the Pasco to show that, he's going to run here. He's one that maybe, from a pace perspective, kind of can stalk the pace, but, he's probably going to end up being an X for me. All right, we get to Independence Hall, and he's obviously got a lot of speed. He showed that in his national win. He can sit just off a front runner, but he's got a lot of tactical speed. The other main speed in here is the Jorge Navarro undefeated runner, Premier Star. Coming out of 2 7-furlong races, 109 on the time form early U.S., 110 for Independence Hall. You wonder if maybe Chaplew on the outside kind of sits that perfect stalking third, trip. Maybe a guy like Sammy Camacho gets a little aggressive on no getting over me, but I'd expect you see the 4 and the 6 duking it out up front, or probably the 6 maybe leading. It's tricky for Jose Ortiz, right? Because he's got the other main speed in John Velasquez to his direct outside. So if Independence Hall was drawn outside of Premier Star, Jose's job is so much easier going down the backside. He can just latch onto his hip. Now he's got to kind of come out running and decide, okay, am I going to let Johnny clear, and get in front of me, or am I going to hold my spot to his inside and we're going to go head and head? It's very interesting, and it, you know, it's going to be a delicate type of ride for Jose in that sense. You know, for me, I'm going to take the chance that the Premier Star kind of hooks him. They hook up early, they go fast together, or at least go an honest pace, and set it up for two other horses that I'm going to use in here. You know, both the 1 Ajaweed and the 8 Chaplu. Now, we talked about Ajaweed a little bit and why I liked his Remsen. Let's talk a little bit about Chaplu. Arnaud Delacour also stabled at Tampa and having a huge meet, like we talked about Mike Stidham. You know, this is a horse that, you know, he's only run on the turf and synthetic. He set the pace in the gray stakes up at Woodbine and was able to get the job done up there. This is a barn that I do know some people in, and they're very high on this horse. They think this horse is training very well on the dirt at Tampa and that he's earned this shot. You know, he could be one that trips out if Independence Hall and Premier Star hook each other and be getting the first run, you know, while a horse like Ajaweed is still kind of cranking up from the back. You know, if I'm going to take stabs, I have to take stabs with horses that I think at least have some chance to take down a big favorite like Independence Hall. And for me, it's really going to be Ajaweed as an A, Chaplu as an A. You know, you'll still use Independence Hall as an A here, you know, just because you don't want to get beat by a horse like him. You know, Premier Star could be a B or a C. You know, he's still very talented and unproven. I don't know about him stretching out necessarily around the 2 turns. He looked a little bit more like a sprinter to me. And then, you know, look, I'm back and forth on Sol Volante. I did say, listen, you know, he's probably one that, you know, I would be against normally. But if it's in your budget, you know, Sol Volante should probably be a B or a C as well. I just wonder if he's more of a turf horse, and I wonder if they're asking him for a little bit too much too soon. But overall, an exciting Sam Davis, one that should be fun to watch. Watch early on. If you know, Johnny's really hooking Jose on Independence Hall, you know, look for Chapelu to be sitting just off that pace, and then maybe Ajaweed and Sol Volante to be launching from the back late. Could be an exciting renewal of the Sam Davis. The last leg is from Oaklawn Park. We head out for the King Cotton Stakes. This is 6 furlongs on the dirt for 125,000, 4-year-olds and up. This has always been a fun race at Oaklawn. Kind of kicks off like a little sprint series that they have that kind of culminates in races like the Count Fleet, you know, serving as like a prep for the Churchill Downs, which is a grade 1 on Derby Day. So you've seen a lot of horses use these little races at Oaklawn, the King Cotton, the Hot Springs, the Count Fleet, a nice little 6 furlong dirt sprint series that they have that's always fun. And you see some very talented horses show up in here. One of them that showed up in here for years is Whitmore, who's obviously a legend at Oaklawn Park. He's made over $1 million there, and he's got 7 wins over the course. You know, he's another one that people might be looking to lean heavily on. For me, he's a little bit harder to lean heavily on just based on his form in kind of this, you know, the second half of last year. I know he ran a good race in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I'm not going to take anything away from him there, but he got everything the way he needs it that day. He got a fire pace for it set by Chancelot to run into it. And like he's always kind of shown against some of the very elite sprinters, you know, even though he is a grade 1 winner and a grade 1 horse in his own right, and a horse we'll all remember for a long time, you know, he's not a Matoli, he's not a Chancelot, he's not that elite level. He's very, very good. And listen, this field is much, much worse than a lot of the horses that he's used to running against. You know, he is 7 years old now. And let's take a look at this race as well from the pace perspective. You know, he's always kind of needed some speed to run into Whitmore. I don't really know if he's going to get it in here. You know, the more I look at this race, the more hungry for speed I think it is. You know, From the Rail is a horse that I like quite a bit because he has speed and he is drawn down in there with an aggressive rider in Ricardo Santana, and that's the one share the upside. You know, he's coming off of a long layoff. Obviously, whatever happened and went wrong in this Mountaineer race put him on the bench for a while. His form before that, though, is strong, and he's another one that's done well at Oaklawn Park. He's 3 for 4 with a second here. He likes this track. He's training well coming into this. He's got 2 bullet 5/8 works, 1 from the gate, which always indicates to me, we kind of talked about with Mucho Gusto last time, that final work being from the gate is really designed for a horse to show more speed. And you saw how sharp Mucho Gusto broke in the Pegasus. He was able to get a good position going forward. I really do think that they are planning to come out running with Share the Upside here. And really, who's going to press him? Who's going to be after him? Okay, the 2 goes blinkers on and has a 110 speed rating, but you look at his, last start, he was kind of just sitting, 5th, just off a 45 half. Well, this is a horse that can go 44 halves. And I know time form maybe disagrees a little bit with me, but I think Share the Upside is much faster than Hidden Ruler. And I expect Share the Upside to maybe even possibly be loose in here. Silver Ride, it'll probably stalk the pace. He feels like a last time was the time horse. Another warrior here, though. Look at that, career record at 8 years old. Whitmore, he'll be sitting mid-pack. Maybe he can be a little bit more tactical for Joe Talamo, but he is coming off a short layoff. And look, who knows? At what point is Whitmore going to really, kind of start to decline, if you will? He showed a few little signs last year that maybe he's beginning to fall off just a touch. He was the model of consistency the year before that when he had a monster year in 2018. And look, he loves Oaklawn. Am I going to be shocked if Whitmore, runs big in here? No, he really should win this race. But I'm probably going to take a shot with the 1. I really just think a lot of these other horses here, nonetheless, is coming off a win on the synthetic at Turfway. I just don't know if he's good enough. Home Run Maker, he's really never run races quite good enough to contend with these, maybe back at Laurel, but his last was horrible. Triangle is career tops of 93. Guess what? That's not going to get it done in here. You look to the outside, a horse that is kind of interesting and does have some class and has run with a Share the Upside and a Whitmore before. Yet another one getting a little long in the tooth is Wilbo. And Wilbo's drawn outside. I love that. He's a perfect draw. He could probably, stalk or sit mid-pack. It gives Channing Hill options to kind of evaluate where Joe Talamo is on Whitmore. But I think that the horse that you want and the horse that's going to be loose in here is Share the Upside. And, again, at the start of this talk, we said, all right, the first leg or the last leg is often a good time to single or a good time to go short. And the reason being in the last leg is that if you are alive going into the last leg, you're able to look at your will pays and your potential payouts, and then you can, hedge on some of the other runners in the field with win bets or potentially, with exotics or other things like that. For me, I think I will play a smaller ticket at a higher increment with Share the Upside singled, and I'll play a slightly bigger ticket at a lower base increment with probably Share the Upside, Whitmore, and Wilbo. So let's take a look. I compiled just some of our notes here for everybody to look at. This is kind of the core structure of the sequence, if you will, where, I discussed that Jimmy Wingfield gave me some problems with my handicapping. I thought that the 2 and the 6 were probably A's. And then, if you wanted to play a bigger ticket, you could incorporate some of the 1, 3, 4 in the second leg, which I believe is the Phillies going 2 turns at Tampa. Very clear 2, 4, 9 for me. That was very straightforward. The third leg was the older horses on the grass at Tampa. Very clear as well. Kind of wanted to go with the class horses of that race, the 1, 4, 7. So really these are my kind of locked in 2 races here where I'll be going 3 by 3. The fourth race is the Sam Davis, where I talked about, look, I want to try to beat Independence Hall, and really the horses that I think can beat him are the set of 5 that I have here. I'd be a little bit surprised if anybody other than those 5 won that race, but I will be spreading that race because I want to try and take down the big single. I want to try to beat the favorite, want to break away from the herd. And then the last race, I will probably play, and I'll kind of write out what I'm talking about here. I will play possibly an all A ticket, if you will. Which will be a shorter, usage of horses at a larger base increment, right? So if I was to play something like 2-6 over 2-4-9 over 1-4-7 over 1-2-4-6-8, and it looks like I'm getting cut off there, and then just single the 1. So that's 2 by 3 is 6, 6 by 3 is 18, 18 by 5 is $90 for a $1 base bet. And that's something, depending on your budget, that you could press up a little bit. You could play it for $1. You could even cut it down and play it for 50 cents, and it'll cost you $45. Much more affordable, format there. For me, maybe that's something you press up a little bit, and maybe you play it for $2 and hope that you're right about your single, and you're right that, maybe you can take down Whitmore with the Asmussen runner in the last race. If you're able to get that Asmussen horse home and you're able to beat Independence Hall in the fourth leg, you're talking about some very large payouts now, potentially on a ticket, where if you were able to stay alive in the first 3 races, you've got a good chance to make a score. If you wanted to play a smaller base increment, like a 50-cent ticket, you could, incorporate something like all of the A's and B's that I mentioned, throughout each of the 5 races. So look, you might have your own handicapping opinions. You might have, something you completely disagree with me on. You might have a horse that you think I missed that's a big price. Never be afraid to throw in a horse that's going to be 10-1 plus into your pick 5 ticket. And don't ever let anybody talk you out of it, because those are the types of horses that really can make a sequence for you. So, if you want to kind of use these horses that I've listed here in each race as kind of the core structure of your ticket, and maybe toss one out that you don't agree with me on, or maybe add one that you think I tossed out, unrightfully, that's the beauty of the pick 5. So that's, a fun cross-country pick 5 for Saturday. It's going to take all of about an hour and 20 minutes, which should be exciting, a little bit different than being at the races and, waiting the whole 3-4 hours for your pick 5 to play out. A lot of action, a lot of fun stakes action as well. A little bit more fun for me to handicap these, stakes races than it is some of these lower level races. But I do think this will also pay better than your normal pick 5 because of the low takeout, and because of, it's really maybe a bet that, not so much money is going to be into it. And it's a little bit more complex for me to explain that. But you look at like a Stronach 5 and how much success that has had, in really kind of a smaller pool and a quick, cross-country version of that. And typically you see bigger payouts on the Stronach 5. So have fun with this cross-country pick 5. Throw in a ticket. Let me know how you do. Maybe post your ticket on Chatter and let some other people see. Hopefully a bunch of us hit it this weekend. Enjoy handicapping the races. And that is all for this week's podcast. Good luck to everybody.